Captain Elias Wren stood at the edge of a dark canyon on the moon called Ilara 7. His boots crunched softly on the dry gray dust as he looked down at the strange shapes carved into the canyon walls. He had seen many alien ruins in his life, but this one was different, very different. His team of 5 explorers was behind him, busy setting up lights and scanners. They were part of the Terran Frontier Union, a peaceful group of scientists and explorers from Earth who searched for ancient knowledge across the stars. But Elias wasn't just a captain. He was also a linguist, someone who studied languages, even the dead ones. A soft beep came from his wrist communicator. It was Dr. Mira Chen, the team's engineer. "Captain," she said, "we're picking up a signal from inside the ruins. It's old, very old, but it's repeating." Elias walked over quickly. The signal was faint and scratchy, like it was buried, under layers of dust and time. But when he listened closely, his heart skipped a beat. It sounded familiar, not in a way he could explain easily, but like a whisper from a forgotten dream. The pattern of the words, the way the sounds moved, it reminded him of something he had once studied on Earth, something ancient. "Sumerian?" he muttered. "What was that, Captain?" Mira asked. "I think it sounds like old Sumerian. From Earth. Thousands of years old." Mira raised an eyebrow. "That's impossible. Why would an alien ruin be using a human language?" "I don't know," Elias said, "but I plan to find out." They entered the ruins carefully. The halls were wide and tall, carved from dark stone that shimmered faintly under their lights. Symbols ran along the walls, lines, dots, curves, etched with care and precision. Elias walked slowly, touching one of the carvings. His mind raced. These symbols weren't just random designs. They were letters, words. The deeper they went, the more the feeling grew. Elias felt like the walls were speaking to him, calling out in a tongue long lost to time. Then they reached a large chamber. It was circular, with a high ceiling that arched like the inside of a dome. In the center stood something that looked like a tall, closed pod made of crystal and metal. Strange vines had grown around it, but the pod itself glowed faintly with blue light. "Is that a stasis pod?" asked Ravi, the team's medic. "Looks like it," Mira replied, "and it's still active." Elias stepped closer. There was writing on the base of the pod. He knelt down and read it out loud. "Asha Ilu Tarim." The room seemed to breathe. Suddenly the pod began to hum. Everyone stepped back as lights blinked and flickered across its surface. The vines pulled away as if alive. A hiss of steam escaped as the front of the pod slowly opened. Inside was a girl. She looked young, maybe in her early 20s by human standards, but clearly not human. Her skin was smooth and silver blue, and glowing patterns moved gently across her cheeks like soft waves of light. Her eyes were closed, but her breathing was steady. Then, she opened her eyes. They were bright violet, glowing like stars. The girl gasped and sat up quickly, looking around in confusion. She spoke in a fast musical language that none of the team could understand. Everyone froze, except Elias. Something about her words touched something deep inside him. He took a step forward, held up his hands to show he meant no harm, and carefully said in the ancient tongue, "Peace. I am Elias. I hear you." The girl's eyes widened in shock. Her mouth fell open slightly. Then she whispered something slowly, clearly, in a voice filled with wonder and disbelief. "You speak the dead language of our ancestors?" The chamber fell silent. Elias didn't know what to say. He had studied languages his whole life, but nothing had ever prepared him for this. An alien being, sleeping for who knew how long, had just recognized his words, words from Earth's deep past. The others were staring at him in confusion, but Elias didn't notice. The girl placed a hand on her chest. "Liara," she said. He repeated it gently. "Liara." She nodded. Elias took a slow breath. Whatever this place was, it wasn't just an alien ruin. And Liara wasn't just a survivor from another world. She might be the key to a mystery that connected Earth to the stars, through time, language, and something much older than either. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Liara sat on the edge of the pod, her silver blue skin glowing softly under the chamber's lights. Her eyes stayed fixed on Elias Wren, studying his face as if he held answers she had waited a lifetime to hear. Elias felt his throat go dry. "You understand me?" he asked carefully. Liara tilted her head. Her voice was soft but filled with wonder. "Your words. They are old, very old, like the dreams I had in sleep." The rest of the team moved in slowly. Mira held a scanner but kept a respectful distance. "Vitals are stable," she whispered. "Whoever she is, she's healthy." Elias stepped closer. He pointed to himself. "Elias, from Earth. Human." Liara's eyes lit up. She repeated, "Earth, human," as if tasting the words. Then, she pointed to her chest. "Liara, Aurelian." Elias frowned slightly. That word, Aurelian, didn't match any alien species known to Earth's scientists. He glanced back at the strange symbols on the wall. Could this be a civilization lost to both human and galactic history? Liara looked around slowly, taking in the chamber. Her expression turned sad. This place, broken. Time has passed. Too long. "What year do you think it is?" Elias asked gently. Liara looked confused, so he tried again. "How long were you sleeping?" She hesitated, then raised one glowing hand and pointed to a small panel on the pod. Mira moved to examine it. "Captain," she said after a moment, "this stasis pod was active for at least 12,000 years. The room went silent again. 12,000? Ravi said, his voice low. "That's before the pyramids were even built." Elias looked back at Liara. "You've been asleep for a long time." She nodded slowly. "Long darkness. But I dreamed of light, of stars, of voices, and of Earth." Elias stepped closer. "Earth? You know Earth?" Liara gave a small, sad smile. "My people came long ago. We taught the early ones, shared words, watched you grow. But then, war came. We left. We hid." Her voice trembled at the last word. She was remembering something painful. Elias sat down on a nearby stone block. His thoughts were racing. This changed everything. If her people had visited Earth in ancient times, they could have shaped early human cultures. Maybe that's why she recognized his old Sumerian phrases, because her people had taught them long ago. He looked up. "Did your people speak the same language I used?" Liara nodded. "A form of it. Old tongue. Pure. Yours is changed, but still carries pieces. Echoes." She tapped her temple gently. "I heard your words in sleep. They called me. That is why I woke." The signal, Elias realized. The strange, repeating message that had led them here. It wasn't just a beacon. It was a language key. A voice calling for someone who still remembered the old ways. Liara slowly stood up. She was tall, graceful but clearly weak after her long sleep. Elias stepped forward and offered his arm. She looked at it curiously, then smiled and took it. "We should get her out of here," Mira said. "Back to the ship. She needs real care, and we need to scan her DNA. This is history walking." Elias nodded. "Carefully. This place is sacred. We respect it." As they walked through the hallway, the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly. Liara brushed her fingers across one set and whispered a word. Suddenly, a panel in the wall slid open, revealing a glowing map. It showed a star system, not Earth's, and a planet marked with the symbol for her people. "What is that?" Ravi asked. Liara looked at it sadly. "Home. Long gone." The team stared at the map. This was more than just an archaeological find. It was a direct link to another ancient civilization, one that had touched Earth and now stood at the edge of rediscovery. As they reached the surface, the light from Alara 7's distant sun fell on Liara's face. She closed her eyes and smiled. "Warmth," she whispered. "I missed this." Elias watched her carefully. There were so many questions, and so many unknowns. But one thing was clear. Liara was not just a survivor. She was a living bridge between two lost worlds, and he had spoken the words that unlocked it all. As they reached the shuttle, Liara looked up at Elias one more time. "You are a keeper of old words, a voice from long after the silence. I think we were waiting for you." Elias felt something shift deep inside him. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like just a man studying the past. Now he was part of it. Back aboard the research ship Starlight Echo, Liara sat quietly in the medical bay, wrapped in a soft blanket. The lights were dim, and calming music played in the background. Elias sat beside her, watching carefully. The room was full of quiet beeping sounds from machines scanning her health, but she seemed more interested in the screen in front of her. It showed images of Earth. She stared at the blue planet with wide, glowing violet eyes. "It is still there," she whispered. "Beautiful. Like I remember." "You remember Earth?" Elias asked softly. Liara gave a small nod. "Not clearly, just pieces, dreams, stories told to us before the sleep." She placed a hand on her chest. "My people, the Oreli, visited your world, long ago, before the stars grew quiet." Elias leaned forward. "What happened? Why did your people leave?" Liara looked down at her hands. "There was a great war, not with humans, with others. Shadows that hated light, hated sound, hated life. We called them the Null Kin. They spread silence. Worlds fell. My people fought back, but we were few. Too few." She paused. "So we made a choice. We hid our knowledge, closed the gates, and some of us went into sleep, waiting for a time when it was safe again." Elias sat in silence for a moment. He felt a deep sadness in her voice. "And now you've woken up." Liara looked at him. "Because someone spoke the old words. You." Elias took a deep breath. "I studied ancient human languages. Sumerian, Akkadian, Proto-Elamite. I never guessed they might have come from an alien source." Liara tilted her head. "Not alien. Shared. Given freely. We did not rule you. We watched, taught, then left. You grew on your own. That was always the plan." Mira entered the room then, carrying a data pad. "Captain, we ran tests on Liara's DNA. You won't believe this." Elias turned. "What did you find?" "She's similar to us. Almost 92% match to human DNA. The rest is different, yes, but close enough that it's impossible to ignore. She might not be human, but she's related somehow." Liara gave a gentle smile. "We shared more than words with your kind. We gave you a beginning, a small part of ourselves." Elias blinked. "So, the first humans were helped by your people?" Liara nodded. "Not made, but guided, like a light in the dark." Ravi entered with a small plate of fruit. She asked for food. I brought something simple. Liara looked at the fruit, curious. She picked up a slice of apple and sniffed it before taking a bite. Her eyes lit up. "Sweet. I remember this taste." The crew watched her eat quietly, amazed by how quickly she was adjusting. She spoke their language more clearly now, learning, fast, picking up words and ideas like a sponge. Elias finally asked the question that had been bothering him. "Liara, is there anyone else like you? Others in stasis?" Liara grew still. "I do not know. The others went to different places, hidden moons, lost planets. We scattered, so the Nullkin would not find us all." "Do you think they're still out there? The Nullkin?" Liara closed her eyes. "I hope not. But if I woke, they may wake too." A silence fell over the room. The idea that something dark and ancient could still be out there, waiting, was troubling. Later that evening, Elias took Liara to the observation deck. Through the wide glass windows, stars stretched across space like glowing dust. She stood quietly beside him. We used to travel between those stars, with song and light. We did not use warships, only peace. But the shadows did not care. Elias looked at her. If we could find more ruins, maybe we can learn more. Maybe help rebuild what your people lost. Liara nodded. Yes, there are places of memory, sleeping cities. If we find the old songs, the keys, we may open them. She looked at Elias and smiled gently. You carry the old voice, you are the bridge. Elias wasn't sure what to say. He had always believed language could connect people, but now it was connecting worlds. As the ship drifted slowly above the moon's surface, the stars shining like diamonds, one thing was clear. Liara was not just an alien visitor from the past. She was a spark of an ancient fire, and Elias had just lit the flame again. The research ship Starlight Echo floated silently above Ilara 7, bathed in the soft glow of its twin suns. Inside the command room, Elias, Ren, and Liara stood before a large holographic display. The room buzzed softly with the hum of advanced machines scanning the nearby ruins. Liara's glowing fingers traced the symbols on the display, symbols she recognized from her memories, etched in stone long before her sleep. She paused, her violet eyes distant. These symbols, she said softly, tell stories, not just of my people, but of yours and others. Long ago, many worlds were connected. Elias leaned forward. Connected? How? She smiled faintly. By knowledge, by trade, by friendship. We shared what we learned. Languages, arts, technology. The universe was young, and we were not alone. Suddenly, the display shifted, revealing a vast star map with lines of light connecting distant planets. One star system caught Elias's attention. It was the same system shown in the ruins on Ilara 7. Is this your home? He asked. Liara nodded, her face shadowed by memories. Once it was. Now it is quiet. We left to protect what we could. Elias turned to Mira. Can we activate the ruins' main chamber? Maybe there are more records. Mira nodded and tapped commands. The ship systems interfaced with the ruins, sending carefully encrypted signals. The ancient machinery inside the moon responded, lighting up in a slow rhythmic pattern. Suddenly, a holographic projection appeared in the center of the room. It showed figures, tall, elegant beings with shining skin, speaking to other creatures that looked like early humans. Liara's voice trembled. This is the Aurelie Council teaching your ancestors. These were peaceful times. Elias watched, captivated. The images showed the exchange of ideas, mathematics, art, language, between the Aurelie and humans. It was a shared history erased from all Earth records. Your people helped us grow, Elias whispered. Yes, Liara said, but not forever. The Null Kin came, and everything changed. The holograms shifted again, showing dark, twisted shapes spreading across worlds, destroying cities, silencing voices. We fought to stop them, Liara said, but the war shattered many stars. The Aurelie hid their knowledge in ruins like this, waiting for a time when the light would return. Elias felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Why did you speak the old language to me? Why me? Liara looked at him with deep eyes. Because you remember. Because your people still carry pieces of the past. The ancient tongue survived in your hearts and minds, even if forgotten. Mira's voice interrupted. Captain, I'm detecting a new signal nearby. It's not friendly. Elias frowned. Could it be the Null Kin? Liara nodded gravely. It may be. They have slumbered, but the reactivation of the ruins might have awakened them. Ravi stepped forward. We're not ready for a fight. No, Elias said, but we can't run either. We must learn what the Aurelie left behind. Their weapons, their defenses, everything. Liara moved closer to the holograms, touching the glowing figures with reverence. There is one last message. The key to stopping the Nullkin lies buried in the lost worlds. If we can find them, we might save more than just Earth. Elias felt a rush of determination. Then we search. We find the ancient cities, the sleeping knowledge, and the hidden weapons. Liara smiled, a hopeful light shining in her eyes. Together, as the ship prepared to leave orbit, Elias took one last look at the ruins below. The echoes of an ancient alliance, now their hope for the future. The Starlight Echo glided silently through space, leaving Alara 7 behind. Captain Elias Wren stood on the observation deck staring at the stars scattered across the dark sky. Beside him, Liara watched with quiet intensity, her violet eyes reflecting the distant light. "Do you think the Nullkin will come for us?" Elias asked softly. Liara's face grew serious. "They always come when the old powers awaken. They hate life and sound and light. Their silence covers worlds. They are hunters of the past and future." Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the ship. Red lights flashed. Mira rushed in, her face tense. "Captain, we have incoming. Sensors detect multiple objects, biomechanical ships moving fast, closing in on our position." Elias took a deep breath. "Prepare for defense." "Liara, do you know what we're facing?" Liara nodded. "The Nullkin. They were defeated but never destroyed. They wait in the dark. Now they hunt again." The ship's crew moved quickly, manning their stations. The Starlight Echo was not a warship, but it was equipped with ancient technology, recovered from ruins. These relics were old but powerful: shield generators, energy pulses, and defensive drones, all linked to the knowledge Liara's people left behind. Elias felt a strange mix of fear and hope. This is what we've been preparing for. Outside, the stars twisted as the Nullkin ships emerged from stealth. They looked like living machines, half metal, half organic, their forms shifting and strange. They moved silently, but with deadly purpose. Liara stepped forward. "They seek to silence the light again. We cannot let that happen." Mira activated the shields, and the ship trembled as the first beams of energy struck their defenses. The Nullkin attacked relentlessly, but the Starlight Echo held. Elias barked orders. "Fire the relic drones. Keep shields up. Focus on their command ships." The ancient drones released from hidden compartments, buzzing out like swarms of mechanical bees. They struck the enemy ships with pulses of energy, slowing them down. Liara moved to the ship's ancient console. Her hands danced over the controls, speaking words in the old language. The ship responded, activating hidden systems from a long-forgotten time. Suddenly, the ship's main weapon, a massive energy beam, charged and fired. The Nullkin ships faltered, one by one, until only a few remained. But the fight was far from over. One of the enemy ships broke through the shields and launched a missile straight at the Starlight Echo. Elias shouted, "Brace for impact." The missile exploded near the hull, shaking the ship violently. Sparks flew and alarms blared. Ravi rushed to the med bay. "Everyone, stay calm. We'll get through this." Liara turned to Elias. "There is one last weapon, the World Key. It can control ancient relics across the stars. If we activate it, we can stop the Nullkin for good." "How do we find it?" Elias asked. Liara pointed to a star on the map glowing with blue light. "There, a lost world. The key is hidden there." Elias nodded. "Prepare the ship. We're going there." The battle outside grew more intense, but Elias's mind was already on the mission ahead. The Starlight Echo sped away from the Nullkin fleet, moving toward the hidden world where hope and danger awaited. As stars streaked past the windows, Elias looked at Liara and saw, "Kadan, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every world the Nullkin would silence." Liara smiled faintly. "And together, we will bring light back to the stars." The Starlight Echo glided through space, closing in on the hidden world that held the ancient secret, the world key. The crew was tense but focused. Elias stood beside Liara in the command room, watching the star map glow softly. "This planet is covered in ruins," Liara said. "A sleeping city waits beneath its surface. If we can find the key, we can unlock the ancient defenses." Elias nodded. "Then we must be ready. The Null Kin will try to stop us." Mira checked the ship's systems. Shields at full power, weapons ready. The ship began its descent toward the planet. Below, desert stretched wide, dotted with strange stone structures half buried in sand. As the Starlight Echo landed near the largest ruin, Elias, Liara, and a small team prepared to explore. They carried scanners, translation devices, and light. Weapons just in case. Inside the ruin, the air was cool and still. The walls were covered with glowing symbols, some familiar, some new. Liara touched the carvings with reverence. "These are songs," she said. "Keys to open the doors. The language of our ancestors is alive here." Elias studied the symbols carefully. "It's a mix of Orally and ancient human languages. This place was built by both." As they moved deeper, they reached a massive door with a strange panel. Liara placed her hand on it, and the door hummed softly, but it did not open. "We don't need to speak the right words," Liara said. "The voice of two worlds." Elias took a deep breath. He began to speak, half in ancient Sumerian, half in the Orally tongue. The words flowed from him as if they were part of his very soul. The door began to glow, then slowly opened with a low rumble. Inside was a chamber filled with light and energy. In the center stood a pedestal with a glowing device. The world key. Liara approached it carefully. "With this, we can control the relics of the Orally, protect worlds, stop the Null Kin." Suddenly, the ground shook. An alarm sounded throughout the ruin. "They're here," Liara said. "The Null Kin have found us." Outside, the dark ships appeared in the sky, blocking out the sun. The Null Kin were coming for the key. Elias grabbed the world key. "We have to get it back to the ship." As they hurried outside, the Null Kin ships attacked with beams of energy. The team fired back, using the ancient relic weapons now activated by the key. The battle was fierce. The Null Kin moved like shadows, but the Starlight Echo's defenses held strong. Liara activated the key. A wave of light spread from the ruin, creating a shield around the planet. The Null Kin ships faltered, their attacks weakening. Elias shouted, "Push forward, we can win this!" With the power of the world key, the crew fought back harder. The Null Kin ships retreated into the darkness of space. The planet was safe, for now. Elias looked at Liara. "The key works. Together our worlds can defend themselves." Liara smiled, hope shining in her eyes. "The voice of two worlds is strong. Our ancestors are not forgotten." As the Starlight Echo prepared to leave the planet, Elias knew their fight was far from over. But with the ancient power of the Orally and the strength of humanity united, they held the light against the coming darkness. The stars shone brightly outside the Starlight Echo as the ship left the hidden planet behind. Inside, the crew was tired but filled with hope. Captain Elias Wren stood next to Liara on the observation deck, looking out at the endless space. "We did it," Elias said quietly. "We stopped the Null Kin for now." Liara smiled softly. "The war is not over, but the light grows stronger. Your voice, the ancient words, they saved us." Elias turned to her. "It feels strange, knowing our history is tied to yours. That humans carry pieces of your language, your culture." Liara nodded. "We are connected by time and language. It is more than words. It is memory, trust, and hope." Back on Earth and across many planets, news of their discovery spread. Quickly, scientists and explorers came from every corner of the galaxy to learn about the Orally, the Null Kin, and the Ancient Alliance. Elias and Liara worked together to share what they had found. They created a new language, a combination of ancient, human tongues and Orally words, to help people communicate across worlds. It was a new beginning. One day Liara stood before a crowd in a large space station filled with people from many species. She spoke clearly and simply, her voice carrying the message of peace and unity. "We are not alone," she said. "Our ancestors reached across the stars to help each other. Now it is our turn to continue their work." Elias watched with pride. He had never imagined that speaking old languages could change the future of so many. But even as they celebrated, Elias and Liara knew their work had just begun. The Null kin might return, and there were still many lost worlds to find, places where the ancient knowledge waited, waiting for the right voices to unlock it. Liara placed her hand on Elias's shoulder. "Together we are stronger. Together we will build a future worthy of our ancestors." Elias smiled. Together. The Starlight Echo prepared for a new journey, a mission not just to explore but to protect and unite. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Elias thought about the long path ahead. The dead language of the past had spoken again, and with it came the promise of a new story for all who looked to the stars. And so, under the light of distant suns, humanity and the Aurelie stepped forward, no longer alone but united in hope, language, and the endless search for peace.